Welcome to my video of today. Yeah, I have to put it back. Yes, I have to put it back. Totally. Yes, and my goal of today is making a video of about 10, 11, 12 minutes. So bear with me because I need to explain this very good. But my goal is 10, 11, 12 minutes and a few seconds or so. And my question of today is, how were enslaved Africans controlled in the British Caribbean? So how were enslaved Africans controlled and where in the British Caribbean? Yeah, that's my goal of today. And we're talking about a specific theme, and the theme of today is actually, if this just works, yeah, ideological and psychological control. Ideas, but also the human mind, psychology. How did they control the ideas and the minds of the slaves in a way? We see this in a book written by a French guy in the 18th century, and he was called Élard the Auditeur. My French isn't that good, so my pronunciation of his name isn't that good actually, but he wrote some books, and he wrote in that in around the 1750s that the disdain, the minachting, the looking down upon them was used and enforced to prevent them rising up and prevent them rebelling against the European colonizers. So telling someone that he is less than you, telling someone his own culture isn't worth anything, this is a way of controlling people. We call this disdain, or we call this also in Dutch minachting. So this French guy wrote it down. So it shows us that the European colonizers knew what they were doing. They knew they were being outnumbered, but they used disdain to put the people down. And as such, this word is very important. You can also find it in your book. Very important word. Yeah? Okay. This was in the 1750s by this guy. But the point is, the Europeans knew actually what they were doing. This shows us this. Okay. We know that disdain was a way of control by the colonizers, and they also used stereotypes. What do I mean by stereotypes? I mean that one of the ways the colonizers used, yes, one of the ways the colonizers used control was using stereotypes. And there were lots of them, but in North America, the Sambo stereotype is famous, and it looks like this. And the Sambo stereotype remains with us until the 20th century. Yeah, it was very damaging and racist, of course. And in Jamaica, they also had a stereotype that was used to show a docile, fun-making, but also uncivilized and naive and not so smart, childish-like figure of the enslaved people. And this stereotype, an enlargement of certain features made out to be, in the end, pretty negative, was used to put the people down. But there was also the case of conversion to Christianity. With conversion of Christianity, I mean that the fact is that if you were a Christian, you could not be a slave, not within European ideology. So Christians can't be slaves in European ideology. But there were preachers coming to the Caribbean, like you see here. This picture is also in the book. And you see here people being baptized, like this person, Caribbean persons, actually African slaves, baptized in this case from people from Moravia, close to Germany. So people came to Europe, from Europe, and those people had as a goal to baptize people. But the consequence was that these people, following their own ideas, actually could not be slaves anymore. And this was, of course, a problem because slavery was something that was needed in the system. So slavery was something that had become very profitable. So this was, of course, a problem. Yeah, this was, of course, a problem. Back, and I need my mouse. Yeah. Okay. This was, of course, a problem. And being Christian was not enough anymore. For instance, in Jamaica, in the slave laws in 1696, being Christian was not enough anymore, and they needed an ideological solution. And the ideological solution was obedience and remaining content. Obedience. Yeah, and it means actually you have to listen to your slave owner, to your king of Britain, or the government of France, or the stadtholder of the Netherlands. And if you are obedient and if you are satisfied, content with your lot, then in the afterlife there will follow a big happy promise, big happy heaven that will reward you for your being content and being obedient. So the ideology was changed and adapted to the fact that they could not let each slave go if they were being made Christian, because that would be a financial and a practical problem. They couldn't do that. And even not in Jamaica in 1696. Being Christian was not enough anymore. And this was also written down in the slave code. This was, at the one hand, going on in the Caribbean. At the other hand, there was a debate in Europe. There was a debate going on. And what was this debate? What was exactly this debate? Debate was, in 1685, should we do slavery? A lot of people profited from slavery, and they begin to say, yes, slavery is biblical. Slavery is something that comes out of the Bible, because in the Old Testament it said we have a people that misbehave towards God, the people of Ham, and this Ham person from the Old Testament had children and grandchildren, offspring, descendants, and his descendants were cursed. And the people from Africa were the people from Ham. So it was biblically justified. Slavery was possible while reading the Bible. The second thing that happened was that slavery was seen as a favor. It was seen in Dutch as a gunst. En papiamento, nangta mira es aquí igual un servicio. Better to live in the Caribbean with pastors and preachers that learn you the Bible and with European civilization than living in Africa without civilization and believing in deities, spirits, and ancestors. So, with European civilization and Christianity, the European colonizers were doing the people from Africa a favor. This was, of course, very a way of backing the things they were doing to the slaves, and it was an ideological justification. We will come back to that term because it's perhaps difficult, but it's pretty important. So slavery was seen as a favor, and it was also biblical. It was not something opposed to the teachings of the Bible. Well, not according to the people in the 17th century, anyway. Okay, we talked about the debate, and this debate was also going on with the philosophers and Enlightenment thinkers. For instance, John Locke said slavery is vile. It's something disgusting. It's nasty. Sclavitud da hopi malo. That's what he said. But others, like David Hume, said there scarcely was a civilized nation of that complexion. Read it again. There scarcely, barely, nauwelijks was a civilized nation of that complexion. What was he meaning by this? What did he mean by this? People from Africa did not have any civilization. Barely. Not much. Yeah. So He did not say he was for enslavement, but he didn't held the African culture and civilization and invention in high esteem. Adam Smith had another opinion. They possess a degree of magnanimity, better said. Grootsheid. They possess a kind of grootsheid of grandeza in papiamentu, in grootsheid in Dutch. So, did he have much respect for African culture? It seems like it. He had respect and he saw positive things about them. Yeah. So this was a way of like criticizing slavery. And Charles Darwin said, polished savages in England. So not the African slaves are savages, wilden, but the people from Europe and the colonizers. They have fine suits and they have fine hair, but they are actually polished savages, you could say. Yeah. French Enlightenment thinkers and the revolutions. We talked about the debates and how the debate leads to an ideology and also an ideology that led to revolutions. Later on, not in the beginning, but only at the end of the 18th and much of the 19th century. There were thinkers like Rousseau and Concordet, and they used to say, guys like Rousseau, they said, well, French Revolution, yeah, we give you the ideas. What are the ideas? Freedom, liberty, human rights, equality. Which with birth you get certain rights that are equal. Doesn't matter where you are born. And these ideas led to the French Revolution, and not much later actually. This also led to the Haitian Revolution. These were not the only reasons for both revolutions. There were a lot of other reasons, but they gave a lot of important ideas. Ideas of freedom, ideas of equality, yeah, and they gave the revolutions an ideology, a set of ideas that were very important in these revolutions. Very important, you could say. So, the French Revolution, yeah, the French Revolution led to the Haitian Revolution, you could say. Yeah? So the French Revolution led to the Haitian Revolution, but the ideas came from French thinkers like Rousseau and Concordet. Yeah? That we see happening. And the ideology. The ideology is a set of ideas that is very important, that is connected to each other. And the ideology for the French Revolution and for the Haitian Revolution came from thinkers from France like Rousseau, Concordet, and a lot of others. Yeah, this is what we see happening. Okay, my final sheet, and I think I will be finished like around 12 minutes, I hope. Not bad, eh? Okay, my last sheet. Yes, thank you. Yes. Why was there a debate among European thinkers if during the Enlightenment time, if during the 17th and 18th century, things like equality and human rights and liberty was so important to people? Well, three things. Yeah. People like John Locke, people like Hume, yeah, people like Rousseau. This guy is Rousseau, and this guy is John Locke, and this guy is David Hume. They had a debate amongst themselves by writing it up in the letters, but also in a debate that was into person, but also by writing very thick books. And the debate was necessary because one, slavery in its fundamental core was contradictorio towards the new ideas of the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. So, if there was slavery, why do we have these fundamental ideas? Because they oppose each other. They are, in Dutch, tegenstrijdig. They don't connect. Secondly, freedom was a very important concept of the 18th and 19th century. The textbook even says that the Enlightenment thinkers of the 17th and 18th century, they invented these, the notion of freedom. Yeah, they invented these. And it also was contradictorio. They also opposed the very idea of slavery because you cannot be free if you're a slave. So, because of all of this, some thinkers gave the slave traders and the European planters an ideological justification. Yeah, they gave them an ideological justification. You see it? Thinkers like not Rousseau, but David Hume, yeah, and thinkers like John Locke, they gave an ideological justification to the planters. Yeah, and I mean by this, they gave like an intellectual backing of what they were doing by their fat books, by their thick books, and their writings and their sayings. So people could live with themselves. And also the European planters could, with science and reason between like a not very good reason, and by thinking rationally, could back up why they were doing what they were doing. You remember? The scientific question, the why question. And with this, I end this video clip. If you have questions, ask them below or during class. And I wish you guys all a very nice